Hi everyone, and welcome to Chapter 4 of Selling Today, Creating Value with a Relationship Strategy. Let's get right into it. What are the learning objectives? There's going to be a lot of text on this PowerPoint, so I'm not going to read everything for you. You can do a good job on your own. I'll just go through it as quickly as possible in this. It's a long chapter. Well, creating value, we're explaining partnering relationships and added value. Discuss how thought process can enhance your relationship, and we're going to identify, describe the major nonverbal factors that shape sales. Describe conversational strategies. You'll see that certainly taken in context of what's happening again, that this has changed and will change enormously going forward. Explain how to establish a self-improvement plan based on personal development strategies. All right, so relationships, added value. Salespeople who feel professional responsibility to create as much value for customers as possible. They exhibit the following characteristics: more energy for sure, stronger work ethic, which we just looked at in Chapter 3, a greater eagerness to ask customers for decisions, right? In other words, to close the sale. This is something that we're going to look at later on, but closing a sale is very difficult to do, believe it or not. A lot of people work very hard, and very difficult for a lot of people to ask other people for, especially customers. They feel kind of nervous about it to ask for the order. In other words, give me your money. So in this information age, the key to success is the manner in which salespeople do the following things: the way they establish, the way they build and manage relationships are really important. This is loyalty. This is the future. This is lifetime value that has to be instilled into customers and into your or salesperson's everyday ethics and value system. So major player will always be an empathizer. Certainly this is a very big word that keeps coming around. Empathy has played its role. Certainly empathy, though, has been looked upon as being something that maybe we're overdoing, only because customers and buyers know it's coming and they feel that it's sometimes fake. So I would say, instead of being an empathizer, I think you need to be someone that is genuine. Okay, so customers perceive that value is added when they feel comfortable with the relationship they have with a salesperson. Yes, empathy or an empathizer is important, but more important, like I mentioned, would be someone that is genuine. The salesperson who is honest, accountable, and sincerely concerned about the customer's welfare adds value to the sale, no doubt. Competitive advantage is a big point also when it comes to adding value. So partnering, the highest quality selling relationship possible, right? So the keys to a partnership relationship is built on shared values. Everyone needs to clearly understand the purpose of the partnership and to be committed. And the role of the salesperson must move from selling to supporting. Larry Wilson wrote this, and he certainly makes a point about number 3. The role of the salesperson must move from selling to supporting. Supporting tells you that now you are more than just genuine. You are helping. In this case, you are not selling anymore. That is one lesson I learned throughout my sales career, was to get away from the factor of selling and as quickly as possible getting to the factor of helping. When you do this, certainly your role as a salesperson changes, and as Larry says here, you become more of a supporter than a seller. So focus on 4 key groups when it comes to a salesperson: the customers, secondary decision makers. This could be someone in production that could be doing this. Sometimes people in production will have a demand that only a certain supplier can have, and they will pass this on to their buyer, to the customers. Company support staff, and also at the top of the level, the management personnel also plays a big part. So you need to not only have a good relationship with a buyer when you walk into a company in B2B, you need to have a good relationship with everybody that surrounds them, that supports the buyer. So tailored to the type of buyer, transactional is a relationship strategy, secondary to price, convenience, and delivery. We looked at this in chapter. Then there's consultative, need identification through effective communication and a relationship built on trust. And strategic alliance, also building relationships with several representatives in the sellers and buyers organization. This is the most challenging for a salesperson, but let me tell you, it is very rewarding when you get to know as many people that surround the buyer. It is much easier to sell. Thought processes that enhance the relationship. Experience acquired through age of information has taught us that many factors determine sales success. A positive image and the ability to relate to others in effective and productive ways. So it comes back to that word genuine. Someone has to be genuine. If I may say, you should look for that word in your quiz. That might be coming up soon. Just saying. So it shows you how important it is to watch this class, this chapter. Self-concept, an important dimension of the relationship strategy. Self-concept, the bundle of facts, opinions, beliefs, perceptions about yourself, and this is also created through bias. This is where you really have to be careful when it comes to selling. You can create biases based upon your self-concept and how you see things, your religion, your culture, your background, your ethics, your values. All of this combined together plays a big part in how you sell and how you say what you say. So these are, sometimes you will say it, you will think it consciously, or you're aware of these things, and many sometimes it's just bias in your mind that's behind there, and you make decisions based upon something that is unconsciously biased. Self-concept, an important dimension of the relationship strategy. Practical approaches to develop a positive self-concept. You need to focus always on what's going to happen, not what happened, as much as possible. Don't look for what happened wrong, what went wrong. Look for the solution. Always be proactive. Develop expertise in selected areas. The more you know, the better. There's no doubt about that. And always, always to have a positive mental attitude. Again, to have a proactive attitude is very important. Now we talked about the win-win philosophy and negotiation. This is really important, and no matter what you negotiate in your life, it's always important to find a win-win solution. So here we look at win-lose people and win-win people. So win-lose, this is really comes down to the mindset. So the mindset plays a big part when you have a fixed mindset or you have a growth mindset. So you have a fixed mindset, this is win-lose. If you have a growth mindset, this is when you have a win-win. So you got to remember that about fixed versus growth mindset. There again, that might be in your quiz later on in this class. Both buyer and seller coming out of sales. Someone really messed up on their PowerPoint here. Both buyer and seller come out of the sales, understanding their respective and best interests, and have been served. They both won. Again, empathy and your ego. A salesperson simply cannot sell well without the invaluable ability to get critical feedback from the client through empathy and, again, through being genuine. Again, you won't see that word there, but genuine pops up again. The ego drive of Mr. Freud, inner force that makes the salesperson want and need to make the sale. The bigger the ego drive, the more confidence that you have, the more determination, I would think, is a better word than ego drive. So here again, just another word, ego drive should be replaced by your determination. So please watch this video. Verbal and non-verbal strategies that add value. We're really not going to go into too much detail. Yes, there will be a bunch of messages but I can give you a whole course just on verbal and nonverbal, how important they are and how important it is for you to follow them and to realize what's going on through the customer's behavior, especially the nonverbal behavior. So nonverbal messages come in all shapes and sizes. Certainly they're called silent messages. In our world, you can even see this now in Zoom because we can see your facial expressions, eye contact or lack thereof, the tone of the voice, up and down, angry or laughable or sad, gestures, all kinds of hands moving around. Also, appearance plays a big part, certainly, right? But one of the biggest ones in posture also, but one of the biggest ones that I'm not sure they're going to talk about here. Let's take a look. So spoken nonverbal messages convey much more impact than verbal. This is true. Tone, volume, speed, and delivery. And also what's really important here that's not mentioned is silence. Silence is probably one of the strongest nonverbals. When there's a discrepancy between verbal and nonverbal, you are less apt to be trusted. In other words, if you are smiling and the words are angry or vice versa, if you have a nonverbal message that you're giving that is negative and you're saying something positive, no one will believe you because they don't match. Influence of your entrance and carriage, how you handle yourself. Making a successful entrance is simply believing and projecting that you have a reason to be there. In other words, confidence. Again, confidence, but I think confidence comes with how genuine and how truthful you are. The more truthful you are and genuine you are, confidence just follows. We're not going to do this one, shaking hands. I think, like I mentioned earlier, the future holds the fact that this is certainly not going to be something we're going to be doing anymore, or a lot less than shaking hands, I should say. But maybe a good question I would ask you is, what could replace shaking hands besides, patting elbows or or anything else that's got nothing to do with, pumping or whatever. So what would you think would be a good way to replace shaking hands? Expressions and eye contact. We talked about that. Eye contact certainly says you're listening, but also depends how you're looking. Sometimes you can look right through somebody and have that invisible look, which really could lead to a lot of confusion when someone's looking at you and not looking at you. One of the best ways to trick yourself in showing confidence when you're looking at somebody is not to actually look in their eyes, or you look at their forehead. And this is really something that a teacher taught me a long time ago. And the students don't look at directly in their eyes. Look over their heads in the back of the class. This was Professor Nucci who told me this. You'll see that you can gain confidence in theirs because you are not staring them down if you're looking at them right in the eyes. This is cool. Confidence, boredom, evaluation. Like I said, I can show you a lot more about this when it comes to this, but we're going to stick to what the school has given to you here. But you can look this up and how certain gestures mean certain things. Impact of appearance on relationship. Customers will all have certain views or unconscious expectations concerning the dress. That's really important. Right, so general guidelines certainly is to keep it simple colors as much as possible. Don't wear purple shirts if you're a male, and women certainly can wear different types of colors. They would have a different guideline than men, but still, again, keep it simple. Appropriate, always appropriate as much as possible. Quality is not really the most important. I think that what we're looking for is certainly something that is clean. And looks good, not necessarily the actual quality of it, but as long as it looks good, it's fine. And visual integrity, in other words, your message that you're offering meets how you look, so that's important too. Effect of voice quality on relationships, up and down, right, especially critical on the phone. Like I said, the voice quality, one of the most important ones, which is mixed up into verbal and nonverbal, is silence. If you use silence properly, it can be very effective in many ways. The last part is very important. I think we all need to improve when it comes to grammar and how we speak. I noticed that a lot of students always use the same type of words over and over again. This is very important that you get away from such words. Like especially adjectives or adverbs that play a big part. It's a good idea to get away from that and improve your speech by changing the words that you use. This is really, really important, especially at a younger age. If I may just make a point, number one, I think I've discussed this with you at the beginning of the classes. When I walk into classes, I always tell you what you can call me, and certainly if I give you permission to call me by my first name, it's really important that you respect that. It's only a choice, but in most cases, if you call me Mr. Brancatella all the time, and at one point I say, well, please call me Tony. You need to respect that. You can't switch back to Mr. Brancatella. You have to show that you are listening, and you need to switch it. And you have that the chance now to call that person by the first name. So go ahead and do it if you're given the okay. Okay, so the last point here, cellular phone contempt. Here, in many cases, is how you respond. Don't use texts when it comes to cell phones, or don't use certain emojis as much as possible. When you're in business, you need to avoid all kinds of emojis, certainly. Texts only, again, works the same way as calling a customer by their first name or somebody. If you're given the permission to do so, do so. If not, don't. So, conversational strategies that enhance relationships. You can see there's 3 of them. Genuine interest in others. There's that word again. Genuine is going to be all over your quiz. So remember that. Take customers' lead on the length of discussion. A good listener, encourage others to talk about themselves. The lead on the length of discussion, I think there's another chapter coming up on communication styles, if I'm not mistaken, and you'll notice that more and more when we talk about the 4 different communication styles. Conversational strategies, comments on here and now, always positive conversation. Don't talk about negative aspects of industry, even in today's world. Where it's so easy to be negative and sad and certainly depressed and upset and frustrated with what's going on around the world. Yes, it's easy to do that, but this is where you can show strength. If you ever talk to people, it's always to be more positive. Hey, customers, very sincere and genuine compliments. Search for mutual acquaintances or interests. If you find that your customer likes a certain topic or a certain subject like you do, it's certainly important to keep that in mind. Not to overdo it and talk about it every day. As let's say someone likes baseball or likes cricket. Doesn't mean that you're going to have to talk cricket or baseball every minute of the day because, oh, you find something in common. You need to follow the lead where a customer, usually if they start the conversation, then you could lead in with that too. Right, so self-improvement strategies that add value, just to finish off. You need to set goals, use visualization, use positive self-talk, and reward your progress. But overall, the one thing that you've got to do to set value and to show value, who you are, is certainly to be proactive, but to be genuine. Ciao for now.